Hello, everyone at MarsCon. How's it going? Woo, MarsCon 2021. This is the COSTplay panel, which is cosplay with a T. Hey, look at that. Look at I'm T. Aaron Cisco. I totally should have made that a thing. Anyway, but seriously, we're going to be talking about how to make, find, and modify costumes, accessories, and props for cosplay. Without breaking the bank, because we know that cosplay is for everybody and everybody, but it's also for every budget. My name is T. Aaron Cisco. I'll be moderating the conversation tonight. I've been wearing costumes since I was a little kid, but I think as far as official cosplay, I've been doing that for a little over a decade. I'm a huge fan of wigs and props to accentuate otherwise mundane or ordinary costumes, because I think a little goes a long way. And with that, I'm going to let the panelists, singular, introduce themselves. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and to kick things off, what's one of your favorite costumes that you've done, as well as one of your favorite cost-cutting tricks?
All right, well, I'm Diana. I don't go too far out like Kieran does, because I like to actually purchase things, but I'm really not very great at the building. I'm great at finding thrift stuff, borrowing, but and my sister-in-law has a thrift store that has so much Star Trek stuff there. She just snaps me everything, and I just say yes to everything, even if it doesn't fit, like this oversized thing that I will do something with. But yeah, I just collect, and then I kind of try to put together.
Super great. Well, that's kind of like a perfect segue. Kind of jumping around a bit in the notes, but as far as like finding, I think that a lot of folks, at least that I've chatted with, when they talk about cosplay, they're worried about cost to buy things, because they think of things like Xcoaster and Cosplay House, Anovo, some of the bigger companies, or even Amazon for that matter. When you type in cosplay, some of the stuff that pops up from the third-party sellers can be a little pricey. But thrifting, so I mean, we don't all have cousins who work at thrift stores, but do you have like strategies when you go looking for costumes? Like when you pick a character, like walk us through your process. You're like, I have this con or event coming up, I want to cosplay. What's the next step for Diana?
Well, I've been working on like it. Sometimes some of the costumes will take a long time. I'm still trying to put together a Tonks. Greatest puff available around. Her wand is very expensive, but I found a knockoff Luna, so for the time being. But yeah, I guess it's just I collect as I see things. Like, oh, this will be great. One year I needed, was it for GalaxyCon? I was Sarah Connor from T2. Well, half that outfit I could wear again for myself if I already didn't have it. You know, I was like, oh, I wanted these boots anyways. But everything, like I had tank tops, black jeans, just had to really buy aviators. But yeah, I just kind of put things together.
That's awesome. It's a lot of, hey, it looks like we've got our very special guest. That's right, MarsCon 21. I need you to put your hands together out there in radio land, digital Zoom land. Well, I can keep stretching this. We have another panelist that will be joining us, I think, shortly. Yes. And everyone, you don't even know. Like, this is like, say, hey, I'm going to go watch like my sister's kids' basketball game, and then finding out that the ringer for their team is like Magic Johnson or something. Yes. So please welcome Bridget Landry. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We just started, so if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also one of your favorite cosplays that you've done, and then also one of your favorite cost-cutting tricks.
Ooh, tough calls. Yeah, I've been costuming for 45 years now, something like that. And oh no, yeah, it's almost 50 years at this point. So, needless to say, I have quite a large repertoire of costumes. some have been incredible labors of love. Some have been, oh, look, I'll put these three things together and I will say it's this. My favorite cosplay is usually either the one I'm about to start or the one I just finished. But I have to say that this last year has been very, very thin on the ground with costuming. I really have not gotten much sewing or costuming done, and I'm hoping to change that. There's always 6 things in the queue, so I've got a lot of plans and a lot of fabric, but I haven't put the 2 together for a while. Cost cutting trick. Boy, that's a tough one. Cardboard and listening to other people. How they did this. I once talked to a woman who had this very expensive button and she made a cast of it and cast it in hot glue and then painted it. And she had them all over her costume, and from more than 1.5 feet away, it worked. So, yeah.
That is fantastic. I am also a huge fan of cardboard, mostly because when I started out, I knew nothing of cosplay. I just saw costumes and I said, oh, that sounds cool. Let me try that, with no instruction, no guidance. And it's like, okay, well, what material do I have an abundance of? And thanks to home delivery and the great Amazon giant, I got lots of cardboard. Let's see what we can do. And yeah, actually the Maximoff headpiece that I'm wearing right now is nothing but cardboard wrapped in lycra. So
hey, yeah, that works.
It worked. And that was just a challenge. Like, oh, we got the cosplay panel coming up. I should probably make something just for the panel, but I don't want to spend any money. Let's see how cheap I can do this.
Yes.
So I made a paper template, traced it on some cardboard, wrapped the cardboard in an old polyester spandex lycra shirt that was laying around, got my fabric scissors out, traced the outline, hot glued the shit out of it.
Yep.
Attached the mask. Yeah, so it's kind of nice to like $0, and it's not too shabby. I mean, it's not super sturdy, but
it'll do for what you need it.
Yeah, I found that with a lot of last minute, and I don't recommend waiting until the last minute, but I found that sometimes those last minute where it's like the emergency, you don't have time to think and plan, you just kind of like MacGyver whatever you have, it has really some pretty fun, or at least creative results.
There's a quote from Leonard Bernstein that says, true creativity requires imagination and not quite enough time.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, he's right.
Let's gospel. Well, right before you joined us, I just asked Diana about her process for selecting a costume, and just the character, not even the materials or the planning stages, just there's an event or a con coming up, something where you know you want to get dressed up. What's the next step? Like, what is your process? Do you...
Ooh, that's kind of a chicken and egg, because sometimes the costume comes first, but sometimes the event comes first. So, like I have 5 or 6 things in the queue that would go for any convention. But if I have a ball coming up, then by definition, I need a new ball gown, despite the fact that I have a rack full of them. So sometimes a fabric will speak to me. I used to do trips to the garment district in downtown LA, and a fabric would leap out and mug me, and it's like, oh, I didn't know I needed to make this, but apparently I do. Sometimes it's a pair of shoes. Sometimes it's a character in a book. So it's inspiration comes from a large variety of different places.
And so, Diana, what kind of cosplayer would you consider yourself to be? Are you a stickler for screen accuracy of the character? Are you more for like putting an original or personal spin on characters? Do you tend to do kind of a combination of both, depending on the event or the character itself or the costume? Like, what do you tend to lean towards, and how does that impact like your cost planning?
Well, in some cases, because I can sew, I just don't do very well of it. So or a lot of it. So I tend to sometimes, like, this is a skater dress of the 10th Doctor. I've been using it for years. I don't care. I do have a 10th Doctor costume now, but this is also very comfortable. Walking around Convergence in the summer. I mean, and that people go, oh, I like your Castile. I'm like, okay, yeah, it works.
Yep.
Like, I don't care. It doesn't have to be. I have a Star Trek skater dress. It's comfortable. I don't have to make something very thing, especially for the summer. I just wear whatever. It doesn't have to be a custom. I've done for a Star Trek thing. I didn't have anything for the day, but I just wore all black, and I had a nebula type or scarf, and I kind of wrapped it around, put Bajoran markings on my face, and I was a double girl.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it doesn't have to be screen accurate at all. It's fine just being, as long as I know what I am.
And how about you, Bridget? Like, with someone of your experience and your skill set, do you still tend to, because you can be a little bit more intricate and accurate with your work, do you tend to go that route, or do you tend to just kind of like relax sometimes, say, you know what, I want to try this, or this is my take, or et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, different costumes require different amounts of precision, and sometimes it has to be right down to the stitch length. And other times it's like, it's the silhouette right? Okay, I'm good. You know, so sometimes it's a function of what I'm going through in my life, and sometimes it's a function of this character needs to be right down to the thread count, you know. And so I have gone down that rabbit hole where you're measuring everything and you're ripping things out 6 times, and sometimes that's what you need to do. And I would never be happy with it if I didn't do it that way. And other times it's like, that's close enough, that'll work. So I cover both ends.
Yes. And it's a little bit earlier than typical for questions from the audience, but this is such a great one. I just want to throw it out there, even though we're only a few minutes in. But this is from Pat Taylor, who says, my weight changes quite a bit. Often in the time it takes to cobble a costume together, my weight changes and components no longer fit. So what would you suggest for us yo-yoers? So either Diana or Bridget, would you like to take that?
I want to say that I have not really had a lot of that problem, but I will say that when we did the chess pieces for Worldcon in '93, I was the kind of person who stopped eating when I got stressed, and so I lost about 10 pounds on a frame that really couldn't. And I ended up stuffing the bodice of my gown just before I went on stage, because that was the only way to do it. Nowadays, I'm a little more careful about making things adjustable, and stretch fabrics help as well, and layers.
Nice. Diana?
I understand that yo-yo part a lot. That's why I think I also just go with, like I said, a dress, or I have like a disco shirt that just says disco. Guess what? On Discovery, that was what they would wear when they're running around the track. So I just had to wear pants that looked like theirs and my tennis shoes, and I was pretty much that's the problem right now. I've lost some weight, and my 10th Doctor now doesn't, and my Melisandre probably does not work. And we've already took that out, so I don't really want to have to take it, Yeah. But I beg friends for adjustments, make favors.
Have a lot of costumes in different sizes. That's the other option.
Yes.
One thing I'll throw in there is for critical pieces, and this also kind of depends on the kind of cosplayer. So I tend to be a little bit more, I don't know what to describe it as, but I like to have fun and be kind of silly with it, because that's what it's all about, right? It's about the love of the character. But if your critical pieces are things like makeup, props, accessories, so in this case, like if I take off this cardboard headpiece and this red wig, then I'm just a bald guy in a red jacket. But if I put the wig and headpiece on, then it's like, oh, hey, that's kind of cool. You're Wanda Maximoff. I can kind of see it. Same thing with like Nick Fury. This might be easier depending on the type of characters you like to play. But I did George R.R. Martin as part of a Game of Thrones cosplay because to me, he is the most powerful man in Westeros. And that literally fits in my back pocket. And I'm in my workshop, so I can just reach and grab stuff. But it was a pair of dollar store glasses that I popped the lenses out of, a Greek fisherman's cap, and a beard. And then everything else was, suspenders, the plaid shirt. So as my weight, which also doesn't stay where I want it to stay, and isn't where it is at, it's not always where I want it to be. Anyway, my clothes tend to follow that closer than my costumes. And so if I have stuff where I can incorporate my own actual like day-to-day wear, so things like a Luke Cage where it's like, all right, this yellow t-shirt is not fitting the way I like it, so I can go dye a white shirt that does fit the way I like it, and now I don't have to scrap that whole costume. Or things like George R.R. Martin, where it's like, well, okay, what I had planned to wear is not going to work, but as long as I have the hat, the glasses, the beard, as long as I've got these certain critical costume elements, that really makes the piece. I mean, my favorite one that I did only once, and I will return to it, I just have to figure out how to make it more interesting, was Walt Disney's Scarface, which was a mashup of Tony Montana and Scar from The Lion King. And really, it's just a main wig with makeup for the Scar, and then telling people, Hakuna Montana and silly stuff like that. And I have a lion tail. Again, if I take any of those pieces out, then it's like, oh, that guy is wildly overdressed to be at a convention. But when I paint a scar on my face and throw a lion tail on the back of a black suit and then put the mane on, you're like, oh, okay, I totally get that now, even if they don't know right off the bat. Which kind of goes into a nice little segue to the next section. We talk about props and accessories, because those can definitely throw a huge price. You might go to a thrift store, find an incredible dress or cape or cloak or tunic, and it's like, all right, this is going to be awesome. Then it's like, oh, shoot. Okay, I want to be a character from this time period or for the setting. Maybe wearing sneakers wouldn't really work with that character. But then you start looking for period appropriate shoes, and that price tag can shoot up pretty quickly. If you start saying like, all right, I'm an orc, so I'm going to be half naked, but I want to carry a battle axe. Building it might be out of your wheelhouse. Buying it definitely might break the bank. What are some of the insights that either you, Diana, or Bridget would like to offer as far as like accessories and props?
It's one of those things that is really hard to describe, but when you see somebody do it, it's really easy to recognize. If you abstract the visual parts of the costume correctly, if you give the right cues, even if they're not accurate, even if they don't weigh the same, even if they're clearly plastic, if the first image is the right image, it'll work. I had a friend who did a full Elizabethan, all done in beach towels, and she had a sand bucket for her hat. And she appeared in silhouette at a Costume Con historical masquerade. And when she turned around and the lights came up, the entire audience fell apart because she had the silhouette right. And when she turned around and they recognized that she had, a plastic helmet and her hem was done with duct tape and there were inflatable pools that were the farthingale. And it was just absolutely hysterical because the essence of it, the first impression, the first thing that it said to your brain was Elizabethan. And then you got to see the joke of what it was made out of. So yes, you can make a battle axe and you can make it out of cardboard. And when they first see you, they will read it as what you're looking for. Yep. As soon as you start moving it around and it clearly weighs 6 ounces instead of 17 pounds, that breaks the illusion. But it's that first look, that first impression you get, that's what's going to let people get the joke, even if it's not a joke.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Kind of reminds me of the Daleks when you're a child. The laundry basket and the plungers or whatever. Richard Ashcroft did that as a joke couple cons ago at a console room just to show off. But that was cheap.
Yeah.
Laundry basket, plunger, get a clean plunger, and a whisk.
Yep. But everybody knows those are the abstractions. In Regency dances, they say, cut the corners that don't matter. And how do you figure out which corners matter? Well, when you cut them and it doesn't work, then clearly they were corners that matter. So sometimes it's very hard to determine those things, but you get better at it. Your eye gets better at it, and you see in your mind's eye what it is that will convey the character that you're trying to play.
Absolutely. No, that's. I wish this was in person so we could have like slides and like models coming out. No, that's fantastic. Well, one of the things I think too, at least in conversations that I've had with people at cons or in passing about cosplay and saving money, that gets overlooked often is about investments and how to take care of things, even if they weren't a really big expense up front, that you can really get some mileage even out of less expensive pieces. And so would love to hear, again, tips, tricks, experiences with maintenance, care, storage, and what we should and shouldn't be doing with various materials and components. Why don't we start with Bridget?
Well, as a dancer, I have a lot of shoes. I mean, Imelda Marcos level shoes. And that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, because I made a whole costume. In fact, this is the original Maleficent costume I made. And I spent the whole time that I was making it saying, oh, well, I know what the shoes are. I have those. I've had them for 25 years. It's fine. I went to the convention. I put the costume on. I put the shoes on. They fell apart. So you have to understand that plastic doesn't survive forever, and sometimes it's going to fail you right when you need it. I don't know what the point I was making there was. Some things are worth the investment at the time, I guess is what I'm saying. When Madonna was very big, and she had those ankle boots with the French heels, and they were like $100 from Kinney's, and I found them for $20 in the garment district, and I almost lost my shit right there in the street. I took those shoes and I wore them for 25 years. And they finally fell apart to the point where I had to buy a new pair. But you can, especially for costume stuff, you're not going to wear it every day. So, go ahead and buy those pieces, the special pieces, the shoes, the corset, some of the foundation pieces, especially. That's one of the things I love about steampunk, is that all this Victoriana that I've been collecting for years, I now have a second use for them. I can use them in and I get to show the damn corsets that I worked so hard making. So think about investing in specific foundational pieces or things that will last. And the other things, you'd be surprised at how long you can make them work. And I particularly, between being a sewer and not being able to make shoes, being a dancer, I really buy shoes whenever I see them. If I see something that I think, oh, that would be really useful. Because I had a pair of shoes, I never intended to make a Georgian costume, and I saw the shoes and I said, these are the shoes I'm going to need. And of course, I eventually did. So sometimes you do have to make that outlay. But then again, I made a pair of over-the-knee pirate boots by putting a Naugahyde spats over a pair of high heels. So, sometimes you can do more than you think you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Diana, tips for storage, maintenance, getting a little extra miles out.
Garment bags and things to put your wigs on, because you don't want to have to keep brushing them out. But I guess I buy the cheap wigs. I probably will use them only a few times. I know Tieran loves his wigs.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah, French braiding a wig for him in a parking lot was fun.
Yes, I
But
do.
people knew who it was.
Yeah, it worked. Which is the ultimate goal, after all. I mean, with the wigs, I think people think that you have to spend, hundreds of dollars for the human hair, hand stitched, and it's like the wig I'm currently wearing is a synthetic. This was, I think, $3-4. This was for my daughter when she wanted to be Poison Ivy 5 years ago. And synthetic wigs are not really supposed to be, these long-lasting daily wear pieces. But because you don't wear them daily, if you
Right.
store them correctly, like either you have a wig case, a wig bag, or you can even use like plastic shopping bags, as long as they're clean and in good shape, and you tie them up tight so not a lot of air gets in there. The fibers will last forever. Sadly, it's horrible for the environment. It's horrible. I mean, it's just plastic. But you can restyle them. You can cut and style them. There's a boiling water technique where you dip the wig into boiling water that kind of loosens the fibers and style it quickly. I like the more aggressive heat gun technique, with a heat gun on a low setting. I put this on my mannequin head, and I, from a distance, just kind of, I brush a hard bristle brush in the heat gun to style it out. I've definitely ruined a lot of wigs, but even that, it's okay because they're crappy. Yeah, it's like little crappy wigs.
We're not using them every day, so you're maybe pulling them out once a year, maybe.
Right, and you can get miles out of them from that kind of upcycling.
Yeah.
I mean, I did Draco Malfoy back for Fan Fusion, and I just took an Elsa wig. Again, one of my daughters, because they go through Halloween stuff, and it's like, well, I'm not gonna spend a ton on something that you're literally gonna wear once and just throw away by the end of the night. So it's like, oh, I got this Elsa wig. Elsa's blonde. Draco Malfoy's blonde. Oh, I've got scissors and a heat gun. Well, here we go.
There we go.
It worked out. It got the job done. Like, I'm not going to get a call from Warner Brothers because they want to put me in the next Potter picture. But walking around the con, people are like, oh, that's groovy. Like, they could tell who it was, and they got a kick out of it.
That's what you're going for. Yeah, after Halloween sales are totally your thing.
Yes. Just buy. I think that's, and maybe you can speak to this. Like, is there a little something in costumers and cosplayers that's a little hoarder-ish? Like, obviously, people hoarding is a real condition, but like, is there a little something where it's like you see it, you're like, oh, okay, I know it'll be good for something sometime, and then it's
Yeah. Well, it's like I hit the thrift stores or I get snaps from my sister-in-law. Hey, what about this? One time she said, "Is this Star Trek?" No, and I'm not going to ever use that. But she'll.
Whereas I get things from other people. Somebody.
Half my Christmas gift is from her because she hit the Star Trek aisle in our thrift store. It's like, I'll take it. Give it to me. I don't care how big it is or if it's small or whatever. I can do something with it.
Right. Yeah, I get a lot of somebody's grandmother is downsizing, and so she's getting rid of all of her sewing stuff, and it's like, oh, I know, Bridget sews, we'll give it to her, and you accumulate a lot of stuff that way. And like I said, the mix and match, this piece can work for that, or you can belt it, or you can take it in. There's a lot of. Somebody told me that he made one of those shirts that have the button-on placket. He would buy the shirt in his size, then he'd buy another shirt as big as he could get it, and use that shirt to make the placket for the front. Brilliant.
Oh, that's genius. That's so good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what the panel's all about. These great cost-effective tips and tricks. Because buying a completed tailored placard shirt or like a frock coat, especially in certain sizes, like I've got dimensions that apparently, according to standard dressmakers, I shouldn't exist, because they're like, your arms are too long for the rest of your body, and like your midsection's supposed to look like this, and I'm like, this is what I look like. They're like, well, for an extra couple $100 we can tailor this exquisite, and like, oh, or
we can do this instead. Yeah.
But speaking of making things, because that's definitely one of the most cost-effective ways, even between thrifting and finding in gifts, making your own definitely is cheaper often than commissioning works or finding existing pieces. So I have what I call the Master Trekkie kit, which is just about $40-50 worth of, like, no matter what kind of cosplay you're doing, if you're doing my style of cosplay, these are the must-haves. I'll run through that list quickly. Again, it's $40, maybe 50 if you want to go fancier. And then I'd love to hear, again, these are your must-haves. Someone's either starting to get into cosplay, they've been doing it for a little bit, want to really get serious about it. The must-have. This is my must-have list, which is a cutting board for sewing, which can run, they start $5-10 and go up pretty high depending on what you want. A hot glue gun or glue sticks.
Yep.
Heat gun, because again, for styling and profiling. And then the last three, I didn't realize their importance until I had been doing it for a few years, but it's a cardboard cutter, which is a serrated tool designed specifically for cutting cardboard, a ruler, fabric chalk or garment chalk, tailor's chalk, however you want to call it, and measuring tape.
Yes.
So that's my
Sorry,
kit.
people.
Oh, hey, there's...
2 of the 3 are up here.
It's an official costumers panel because the cat has
that was
left.
the cat. But that's just my kind of like, no matter what, this is my go-to. I have to have these always. And whenever someone asks and say, I like the costume, what do I need to get into it? I'm always run off kind of like, that's my laundry list. What are some of the other items, techniques, materials that are just kind of like baseline, no matter what you're doing, you need to have X?
You covered a lot of it. You really need 2 good pairs of scissors. You need a paper pair and a fabric pair. And you can get by with the fabric pair being a roller cutter most of the time, but not all the time. You really need a good pair of scissors. And frankly, a pair of thread snips will make your life much easier. That, and every year in your sock for Christmas, give yourself a new seam ripper. I did not understand that seam rippers got dull. And a friend of mine borrowed mine once and went, "The fuck is this? Get yourself a new one." So every year now I get a new seam ripper, and it makes my life a lot easier. What else? Yeah, those are the top things that I use. I have dabbled in dyeing and painting, but only a little. I most of my dyeing has been of yarn, and I've done it in a crock pot. So,
Cool. Diana, do you have any must-haves or recommendations?
I think you guys covered it, but I will add that if you have creative friends as well,
yes.
do not be afraid to trade secrets or favors. Like they might be good at this and you might be good at this, and you guys can help each other out, and you don't have to like go around and like, can I find a tailor who can do this cheaply? Well, I can do it. Okay, well, I can do that for you,
Yeah. We had a threesome where I did all the calculations and Kate did all of the artistry and Belle did all the wigs. And it was like a nice collaboration, really nice collaboration. I'm terrified of wigs. They scare me. They really do.
So great. Oh, actually, I just like wigs because I shave my head when I'm not in costume. And so the wig is just such a quick and easy way. I think I had a really bad early costume experience where it was the first time I went to Convergence. I was like, this is my first big con. And so I wanted to go all out. And so I spent quite a few weeks building this very elaborate, very heavy, very screen materials accurate Klingon costume for a character named Kalis, who wore a full fur vest over like a leather shirt, leather pants, which is great on a set that's climate controlled. Not so much in the middle of
Minnesota summer.
Yes. And like that moment, I was like, okay, I need costumes that I can, one, breathe in, not lose 30 pounds walking across the parking lot, and that like move. And so 2 things I wanted to touch on super quick, and I hope that we can still be friends, Bridget, but my sewing skills are slightly above terrible. And so a lot of what I've done is come up with a lot of workarounds. So there's this material here. My cat loves to play with it. That's what you saw me pushing Zelda So you're just kind of like, oh, you're bringing out the toy. It's like, it's not a toy. But it's a little filament. It's an iron-on. It's just like
Yep.
like a roll of tape. You put it between two pieces of fabric. You hit it with your iron, and it's like magic.
Yep.
It's
That's how we hemmed our Logan's Run costumes. I am totally there for that.
it's so
Yeah,
great.
so easy.
And it's only like about $2-3 a roll or
Mhm.
to start, and then of course you can go up higher. And the other one, because this is from my sister used to be in pageants and did some modeling. It's called Problem Solved. It's
Yes.
super sticky double-sided tape. Usually it keeps things you don't want seen from being seen. It can
Keeps
also
things
work.
PG.
Yes.
Yes.
Like it can
I
also work in a
totally-
pinch for quick hems, like if your pants are
Yeah.
too long, or if you have a rip on a non-stressed part. There's, yeah,
Yeah.
these two things, because me and my sewing machine, we have a love-hate relationship.
I totally get that.
I'm like, I'm following the tutorial. Why won't you do what it says? And he's just like, whatever, man.
Play right. Yes, I totally get that.
Okay.
Now, any way you can make it work, that's valid. I've had people say, oh, I can't sew, so I can't be a costumer. It's like acquisition is a valid skill.
Yes.
You put things together really well. Why does it matter that you can't do it with needle and thread? That's okay. Hot glue works.
Exactly.
Did we touch on that about acquisition? I know we mentioned thrifting, but acquisitions, are there any favorite? This will get into the tips for the viewers who are watching now or will be watching later on the restreams on YouTube and stuff like that. Love for both you, Bridget, and Diana, go through some of the places, either brick and mortar or online, either is fine. But just what are your go-to places to acquire materials, whether it's for specific purposes, like if you're going because you know you want to get this type of fabric and you know that this particular retailer carries it, or these materials, or if it's just for discovery, like you know that, like, oh, I always have good luck when I'm thrifting or just looking to upcycle. So some favorite stores, businesses, shops, what are your sources? And if you have websites off the top of your head, definitely feel free to share those as well. We'll start with you, Diana.
Fabric.com. You can find some really good deals. Like when we took out my Melisandre dress, I found some surprisingly accurate dye setting for it came, like the dye was actually pretty close. You could barely tell as you really went close. The crinkle for the taffeta was a little different, but that's not a problem. That was really cheap. I think I paid $5 just something to bring out a gown. Wish.com. I'll tell you guys, that is an amazing site.
Some of it is crap and some of it is really cool stuff.
But if you're just going to use it for a convention and you're not worrying about so much screen accuracy and you're only going to wear it once a year, maybe, it's not that bad. I have a cosplay private list on Amazon that I find something on Amazon, okay, there, but then I can go back to so I can look to what I want to find somewhere else. Because Amazon does cost some stuff, but sometimes it doesn't. So, like, yeah. I have these Vulcan earrings, $10. They don't fit my ears this year, but they did last year. They just kept falling off. But I mean, like, so they're not like real Vulcan, but they're it's costume jewelry, basically. And I can wear it with any Star Trek thing I have. I can just turn myself into a Vulcan and have sparkly ears.
I bought the Elven wire points for the ears. I saw those and it's like, oh. Yeah, can't.
Oh, yeah, I will totally recommend. Just even though Wish has got some stuff, you might have to pay get a lot of little things that maybe all the shipping together versus sometimes you may have to pay more in shipping. But if you can get some great deals, look on the website up computer more than the mobile. I think you can get a better accurate of what you're looking for than just looking at a screen.
And Bridget, same question. Some favorite businesses, websites, just places to acquire. Like, where do you go for your content?
Pre-COVID, I just spent a lot of time in the garment district. I'm very tactile, and so I have to go and touch things to see if they're what I'm looking for. And thrift stores. I don't have as good luck as some people I know have really strong thrift foo, and they walk in and they walk out with 5 costumes worth of stuff for $1.50. But every once in a while you come up with something really cool. And strangely enough, the hardware store. It's amazing what you find in the hardware store that works as a helmet or crown or belt or, decorations on boots. It's the ability to see something and to see it as something else is very valuable as a costumer.
Absolutely. I started making a list initially, then realized because it's virtual, our audience base is a lot larger than have we been in the hotel like we have been in previous years, where it's like this is very Twin Cities based. So from a national standpoint, I would add, there's a website called shapeways.com. This would be great for props and accessories because it's this weird marketplace. And I'll try and explain it quickly because I don't want to take away from you two experts. But if you have a 3D printer and are looking to use it but need designs, you can go to Shapeways and find people with designs that will give you that you can sell or trade or for your 3D printer. If you have a design and not a printer, you can do vice versa. If you have neither, you can then go on, just kind of ramble around and say, hey, I'm looking for, oh, he's gone now. Damn it, Zelda. It's really far away. But I'm looking for, like, I tried to make Jordy's mask from Next Generation. And I came up with a passable mask, but I was like, this is not going to last. This is cardboard. And if you get more than kind of what you say, like a foot and a half, then it stops being as impressive. It becomes like, hey, that's a banana clip and some like upholstery foam, etc. So I went to Shapeways and I said, they don't make a licensed version of these. I'm looking for pieces. Can someone make this design? And then I met someone who said, yeah, I have a file for this, but I don't have the printer. So if you can find the printer, then we can work out how to get it printed. And then someone else came into the conversation. So it's a little tricky to navigate because it's not as straightforward as, like, say, a Facebook or even an Etsy, but it is a really great space to get pieces.
For one-offs.
Yes, for one-offs, and they last a while. Oh, it's just out of reach. It's a really nice piece, but it just happened to get knocked far. Anyway, take away for it. But shapeways.com is great for those. And then as far as brick and mortars, when the world reopens and it's safe to do so again, places like national chains like Dollar Tree,
Yes.
which is a dollar store, even though everything there doesn't always cost $1.
Yeah, I know.
But for props, I find that they're great because they have the most random assortment of things sometimes.
Yes.
Where you like walk in, you're like, oh, they have this now. So for, I mentioned like Nick Fury cosplay, I'm actually gonna defrock just a little bit.
Da-da, da-da.
So hey, there we go. That's a little better. Oh yeah, and the Maximoff mask again, just cheap cardboard, nothing fancy, but it works for the costume. So this way, it probably sounds a little bit more believable to the audience. Like, oh, for Nick Fury, but they had these party cubes. So, because Nick Fury, really, to do a screen accurate, it is a black T-shirt and an eye patch, which is not very exciting. I'm going to turn off my key light. You can still see me.
Yes.
They had these little cube party lights. This was about $4. And so then it's like when you're black shirt, eye patch, and the Tesseract, all of a sudden you become a lot more interesting to other congoers, a lot of photo ops, and things like that. And again, I guess I should stress too, there's nothing wrong. Like, if you like your costume, then your costume is perfect.
Yes.
Like that's the end all be all. Whether you made some like LED laden, like wearable Iron Man armor, or like quick chains Elsa, where you can hit some cool hidden switches and spin around and all of a sudden the dress looks completely different, or you're just wearing an eye patch and carrying around a plastic party light. If you like it, it is perfect. Like, there's no cost shame. I want to get that out there too.
There are fails. I dressed as what's her face from Doctor Who that ended up as Prime Minister.
Oh man. She says her name how many times?
Flydale North is the only part I could remember. Anyway, I dressed as her for a Doctor Who convention, and everybody thought I was part of the hotel staff. And it's just like,
yeah, correct.
I had my ID in my pocket so I could show people, but it's just like, okay, that's a fail.
Dollar Tree is $1 always. It's the Family Dollar, the
Family Dollar.
Dollar General. Those are not $1.
And 99-cent stores are not all 99.
Yeah.
Five Below is also a good place to go to. They're kind of going a little higher than $5 now, but for something.
Big Lots used to be Pick and Save, but now it's Big Lots. But you can find some interesting things there, especially over the hill toys, things that were really cool 18 months ago will end up at Big Lots, and you can use them then for building your props for something else.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. The dying toy store, which we're running out of them, and it is sad. Like when Toys R Us went out of business. Oh, that was great. Terrible for all the families of the employees, etc. But man, as a costumer and a cosplayer who's into cosplay, yeah, that was one of the pieces. Like, this is a terrible, very thin, not durable at all plastic Kylo Ren mask that was sold at Target. It was sold at some of the other toy shops with just old yoga mats.
Yeah.
And some spray adhesive, and then some cellophane. Like, this is a lot more passable. I've actually gotten compliments on this crappy thing than others. Wow, this has been a fantastic discussion. We are actually at the end of it, or coming towards the end. We only have just a few minutes left here. We're getting some notes from the chat. We are out of time. Yeah, we are out of time. I want to thank are incredibly it's fantastic. I could do this panel for the next 3-4 hours. We could do this all night. You're both of you are such a delight to talk to. Bridget Landry, Diana Tan. I think this might be the last event for tonight, but please check out MarsCon. There's a Discord, there's the Facebook group, there's a lot of activities. It's only Saturday. There's a whole another day full of activities to come. There is one more panel tonight. So stick around. Getting updates in real time. I should hold my earpiece here. Like, oh, this just in. But yes, thank you so much for watching the cosplay panel. Tell your friends, stick around for one more panel on MarsCon, and definitely turn back tomorrow for stay for tonight and come back tomorrow for more content and great guests and great conversations like we had tonight. So again, thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you very much.
You guys have a good night. Enjoy the con.